Hello, welcome back. Time now for our last fireside interview of the day. And at this point, let me remind you that if you want to ask any questions, make any comments, whatever, they come directly into me. So use the app, ask whatever questions you like, and if we can, I'll pass them straight over to our interviewee. The subject of this fireside is accelerating innovation, AI, ML, and analytics, and that is with Kirsty Biddiscombe, UK Sales BDM for AI, machine learning and analytics at NetApp. So, hello very much, Kirsty, welcome. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
Can we set the scene by just somehow make it real? And this sounds like a bit of a job interview question, but can you give me some firm examples of how the innovation that you want to talk about has really made a difference, really driven innovation and affected bottom line?
Yeah, there's a number of examples I can give. What I would say is bringing it home and making it tangible for people is if you're looking at agriculture, farmers are using drones with cameras to be able to identify the crops that need spraying or the crops that are diseased, which means that they're not having to spray potentially toxins into the environment and spend thousands and thousands of pounds on spraying all of their crops when actually there's only a limited amount that's needed. So using computer vision and artificial intelligence is allowing that industry to really change the way that it's working, change the way that it's actually farming. Other examples would be around sensors on vehicles and autonomous vehicles, making sure that cars that are driving are safer on the roads. They have more sensors, more availability to information, more availability to traffic information and safety road tips. So it's actually saving people's lives and the fact that it's making our roads safer for us. If you're looking at healthcare, we're having a lot of investment and benefits looking at preventative medicine, where we're looking at people's DNAs and markers in their DNA. And obviously this is something that the human eye would never be able to see, but the anomalies across millions and millions of pictures of the same atom or the same object means that we can find anomalies in people's DNA, and we can predict based on records that we have of other patients that by the age of 40, this particular patient is likely to develop a type of condition, which means we can actually prevent them from getting that in the first place, saving millions and millions of pounds, especially in the UK for the NHS. So allowing money to be invested in a more productive manner.
You touched upon there two particular examples where human health and human welfare are right at the fore. The NHS, the healthcare example, and the example of driverless cars. What safeguards are there? Are there enough safeguards? Do we have enough safeguards and controls?
So what we tend to call it is guardrails, and you put guardrails in to make sure that there are limits and acceptable innovations happening that are happening in a controlled manner to make sure that they're very well tested and they're very well understood. If you look at artificial intelligence, essentially it is all based on data, and this is the reason that we have this position. This is the reason that I'm sat here today. Access to information and the data within your environments is the most important thing to an AI platform and the success of a platform, to make sure that if we go to the autonomous vehicles, if that loses access to maps or satellite information around traffic information, the sensors could potentially mislead and the car could run at a red light and it could cause issues. It could drive off the road, that would cause issues. So the guardrails that are put in place are to make sure that all the tests are prudent enough to make sure that it is a safe development, and nothing will go into production without it first having been tested in a proof of concept manner. The majority of AI deployments are actually first tested in a safe environment, creating algorithms, understanding the repercussions of what if there's something called digital twin, which is essentially a virtual reality simulation. So it allows companies to simulate what would happen in certain scenarios and make sure that they guard against that moving forward. So there are a lot of tests and guardrails put in place to make sure that deployments aren't just sent out without having the right guards in place, especially around the human safety aspect. But also, there's a lot of people worried about data security. So making sure that you have the right levels of data security in place to make sure that you're using the right data and you're using the right information at the right time when it's needed is absolutely prudent to success.
Well, I was going to ask about that very thing. I was reading one of your blogs earlier, and you talked about data being akin to clean water and dirty water, and the fact that some companies starting out on this transformational journey may have legacy systems and may have data that's simply not fit for the future. Where on earth do you start? How do you begin to unpick that?
Well, this is so a lot of companies are providing services now to actually review customers' data environments to make sure that what they do have in place is significant and relevant and suitable for AI environments moving forward. And you're absolutely right. Legacy systems often don't have the capabilities to be able to support potential AI deployments. Over 60% of AI deployments currently don't go into production because they don't have the environments in which to be able to support it. If you use an example of building a house, you make sure you get the foundation right. As long as the foundation is right, then it doesn't matter what you build on top of it, it will be right for what you're looking to do. And it's the same thing around technology. Analysts are predicting that by 2030, we are going to have a yottabyte of data. That is the equivalent of, to humanise that conversation, that's the equivalent of every single person on the planet carrying 500 iPhones around with them. So you've got to really understand the data that we're using is only going to exponentially grow because of the amount of data that is produced now. Everywhere you look, everything is producing data, from sensors to photographs to restrictions and even water pumps, looking at how much water is being produced, cleaned, calculated. So everything is producing data, and we've got to be really acknowledge that data needs to be held and accessed securely. And what we've seen in the past is over 90% of AI deployments have actually started out in the cloud. We talk about the cloud providers, there's three main hyperscalers. We at NetApp have made sure that we've understood that, and we actually have access and work very, very closely with these guys to make sure that we can help our customers access their data, regardless of where it is, in a secure and simple manner, meaning that they can really progress and innovate in what they're trying to do, make faster decisions, go to market quicker, have a better customer experience, reduce their operations. So a lot of the AI that's actually being used doesn't tend to be building robots. It tends to be business process automation. So not quite as exciting as the autonomous vehicles or the cameras that are looking at the crops, but more around moving the workload from people that takes up a lot of their time. Data scientists today writing code, 65% as a minimum is taken up of managing their data. So for us to be able to remove that obstacle means they can do the job that they want to do. And that's where the innovation comes from, underneath that production layer, what comes first. So unfortunately, it's great to talk about, building robots and flying objects and even vehicles that are monitoring how much water they're using on the roads to clean a road and reducing that amount of water being wasted. That's the outcome, but actually the foresight to that is the planning and the implementation of the impact of the business process automation. As I say, it's not as exciting, but that's where we're seeing the difference.
Absolutely, it may not make the sexiest headlines, but it's driving business forward, which brings me on to ask about how companies can compete in this market. I can see how many big scale companies can deploy AI, can deploy enough resources to deploy AI to transform their businesses. How about smaller companies? Are they being left behind? I mean, are we rushing headlong to a new wave of globalization that's reducing competition for smaller companies?
Absolutely not. I think what's happening, there used to be a concept of a build or buy mentality. There are so many companies out there and so many different platforms that you essentially can buy into that will help you develop what you're trying to achieve. And what you'll see is, even though the smaller companies, yes, they may not be bringing in as much revenue as the larger companies, but the impact that AI can have on them can be a lot faster and a lot more mobile. So it can help them go to market a lot faster, whereas larger companies have a lot more to do. It's like moving the Titanic. It used to be the sort of phrase. So the smaller companies can do more or need to do more with less. So actually AI is allowing them to do this, and it can have a real impact on those smaller organisations.
That's so interesting you said that. It echoes to something we were hearing in this event earlier in the day about the need to be agile. So that echoes on that. So if that's the case, what's your advice to an organisation if they're developing a digital transformation strategy?
I would suggest that they work with their partners. So we are a partner-centric organisation. Mm-hmm. We form alliances with the best companies in the world that are looking at this technology, and we have very, very strong partners who can guide you and lead you and provide some of these resources and some direction, whether it's looking at an ideation workshop where they help you identify actually the use cases that are going to make the difference and have the most value for your business, whether that is, as I say, revenue generating, customer satisfaction, or reducing operating expenditure. So my first suggestion would be to find a partner that you're comfortable with, understands what you're trying to achieve, so isn't just out to sell you something, or really takes an interest in what you're trying to do, gets on board with how you're trying to achieve it and what your priorities are, and work with them, because they are going to be best positioned to be able to help you strive to where you want to get to.
And addressing that advice specifically to the leadership in organisations, perhaps people who are not just not au fait with this aspect of business, but feel completely out of their depth. What should they do to prepare themselves? Well, I don't think we've got long enough to be able to go through that today, but I would suggest that they have a look at what other companies in the same industry are doing, have a look at the art of the possible, really, and understand what could be achieved by looking at their data and really understanding what they have, what value in data or the information is theirs to own, and their proprietary data, and just make sure that they're in a position that they can use it to the best of its abilities, and they understand what they can use that for. And there, as I say, there are so many different industries that you can look at, from finance to retail, manufacturing, government, defence, all of these have different potential use cases. I would suggest working through with your partner to understand the art of the possible and what the best thing is going to be delivered for you. Kirsty, I'm sure that NetApp has such a broad range of experience in this field. Which would you say are the sectors that have adopted AI most? Again, there's been such a different impact in the different industries. I think finance has been at the forefront of taking and adopting AI day to day, but again, the majority of that is around the business process automation, taking away the administrative content and work that means that their employees can actually do what they're paid to do.
Healthcare, as I say, has had a massive impact. Manufacturing plants, as I say, I think around 43% of finance organisations say that they are deploying AI platforms to help improve customer satisfaction, improve their go-to-markets, and reduce the amount of admin that their teams have to do. So I would probably say the biggest impact has been around finance, but then with a close call of being healthcare coming up very, very close second.
Yeah. What are the barriers, do you think, for some sectors, some companies?
So we tend to speak to quite a lot of customers, as you can understand, and the barrier, or the challenges, I'd say, rather than a barrier, is the information cleansing and accuracy. You get out of an AI deployment, you get out of it what you put in. So if you're putting in clean data, you're going to get out clean information and reports. If you're putting in dirty data or incorrect information, then you're going to get things out of that environment that isn't necessarily directly associated with what you're trying to find out. And in some circumstances could be what they term in AI is hallucinating. So an AI algorithm will try and find the data that is correct to provide you with an output, but if it's using incorrect data, then it can do something called a hallucination, which will be almost make it up to make sense of what they're talking about. So we do have ways of getting around that, but this then starts becoming quite a technical discussion around something called RAG, which is making sure, essentially allowing your AI deployments to have direct access to correct information and making sure that you provide it with up-to-date information consistently so that that output is correct as to what you're looking for. But again, I mean, I think today we haven't got enough time really to go into that. I'd certainly talk you through it, and I've got a huge team of people behind me who are very, very used to talking you through and setting up these kind of environments and helping our customers be able to achieve that. But there's not enough time today to be able to talk you through how we do that.
I have no doubt at all that NetApp is seriously tooled up to do that, which is useful for people to know. But I mean, do companies that come to you, are they in a position where their data is already clean and good to use, or is transforming their whole data collection and approach part of the first steps?
Yeah, that would be the utopia, wouldn't it? No, I mean, there's always going to be an element to the information that you have and the data that, you know, it's not just about it being clean and reliable, but it's also about where it sits and how you access it. We, as one of the first engagements that we would do, obviously we look at the ideation and the art of the possible, what use cases can be relevant to that particular business. But then we would always look at providing or working with our customers to run some sort of data analysis, looking at their environment, where their data is, what their data is. Just because you have data doesn't mean that you should use it for certain elements. If you look at GDPR over the last few years, that's become very, very relevant and very, very obvious. So it's about the securities and the permissions of using and accessing that actual data. We, obviously being a technology company, we do have platforms and infrastructure and software that will help you analyze what your data is. And it's not just about what it is, but it's about managing it and moving it, labeling it, cleaning it. This has all got to be taken into consideration, and it sounds like quite a lot of work, but actually if you're working with the right tools, it means that you do this up front, you do almost an assessment up front, you create this platform, and then that can incrementally, so as changes are made, it will make those changes and keep track of those changes, so you don't have to do that. So in essence, we would reduce that amount of data management, and we would automate that for you using the tools that we have.
Earlier today, we were talking about cybersecurity. It's at the forefront of everybody's mind. For those companies that are just starting out on this journey, that must introduce challenges and difficulties, which presumably organisations like yours can help deal with. But nevertheless, it must be the most massive worry for companies. And does it deter them? Does it flummox them?
Absolutely. I think that you'll have heard the world going mad about ransomware protection and people trying to steal people's data. That is a really, really big consideration. We actually have inbuilt ransomware protection in our environment specifically for that. So we use AI within our own platform to identify when a data occurrence or a cybersecurity risk presents itself. And we actually recognize that in real time, stop it at its core, and we stop whoever's trying to get access to that data from getting access. On top of that, we also have the ability to go back to the original version, so you can pull back the original data. So even if someone went in to corrupt it or steal it, you can actually get back to that original version. So we are very precise on how we do that. We make sure that we're at the forefront and making sure that our customers have that ability to be notified when somebody has tried to access something they shouldn't, and we make sure that they can get that data back as quickly as possible. But I would say that is absolutely in the top 3 considerations when not just AI is involved, but actually your entire environment ever since the existence of the internet, being able to access data externally. It's becoming more prudent now because of the value of data to organisations, and as I say, specifically when it comes to AI, because of the impact of that data, it has become really, really high on people's priorities. So, yeah, I would absolutely say that if you're not absolutely certain that the technology that you're looking to work with has this security element to it, then maybe that's not the technology you should be looking at.
Can I ask the most unfair of questions? Ask you to look forward. I don't know how far you can look forward, the next month, 6 months or 2 years, but to have a look at or have a think about some of the emerging trends and technologies that we can expect.
I would say we're just scratching the surface at the moment. And there are legislations that are coming into play, and there are real considerations that are being made by government and by companies. I would say it's going to be around the security element of it. I mean, the utopia, to use that phrase again, it depends on what vertical an industry you're working in. The utopia for healthcare, for example, would be the preventative medicine, so that we can look at every environment and every patient and be able to predict when they're likely to get ill and stop that happening in the first place. The amount of lives that could be saved through doing that. This is one of the reasons that I actually ended up getting into AI, was because I saw a difference that genome sequencing can make. That, understanding somebody's blood type and finding ways by looking at people's DNA and anomalies and markers and comparing it to 100,000, 200,000 other patients. The cure for rare diseases and potential cure for cancer is coming off the back of that. And we are moving at such a pace that it would be a real shame for that innovation to be limited or restricted. So we've really got to look at, don't be scared of AI and the innovation that it can bring, because it is changing our lives in any aspect. If you think of a topic that you're specifically interested in yourself, I can guarantee there'll be 10 AI benefits being used already to that industry that we may not be aware of. It's just happening around us. So I would definitely press let's go with guardrails and not impede innovation, because it really will change the world that we know at the moment. But also be mindful of the security aspects of it, because I certainly wouldn't want my personal data or the next 500 iPhones of data from my life being available to everybody, and I'm sure nobody else wants that as well.
Sure. Well, so you started to summarise very nicely the whole conversation we've been having. What, from your perspective and NetApp's perspective, are the big takeaways then in the use of AI for innovation?
Don't be scared of it. So be creative and really look into how it can help your organisation, or even, as I said a moment ago, look into yourself and think, how has that already affected my life? What else can it do moving forward? Make sure, if you're a technology company, make sure that your information and your data is clean, accurate, protected, and accessible. And then at that point, start to consider making sure that it's responsible, that you're using AI responsibly. We are now using AI to combat AI, to make sure that it is responsible and there is no bias within the prep and the build of it. But we have to be considerate of that as well.
Amazing. Kirsty Biddiscombe from NetApp, thank you so much for joining us right now at Tech AI Live London. Brilliant to hear from you. Thank you so much.